Hello guys, this is chapter 17, and this chapter, they put everything in a human sexuality textbook in this chapter. There's a lot of information in this chapter, which is good, it's okay, but it's brief. It's a survey of what is going on as far as you probably had it in high school, or maybe you had a human sexuality class. You probably know most of this chapter, most of it you should know. So I'm hoping it will not take us long to go over the material of this chapter. And if there is any problem or anything, please contact me, and whatever does not click, let me know. Okay, so let's go over, these are the outcome. And reproductive system produce gametes, and gametes are egg and sperm. I think I've talked about it before. And gametes, for example, pollen of trees are also a gamete. So a gamete is just not only sperm and egg, it's also the pollens of trees are referred to as a gamete. Female also produce a nutritious development fetus until birth. Yes, we know that. We are mammals, and they do take care of that. The reproductive organs are genitals, and male genital and female genitals, and we also call them a gonad. The term that is used, gonad. Okay, so testes or ovaries, they both are referred to as gonads. So, and the male, of course, they make sperm, and the female make the egg, and the penis delivers the sperm into the vagina, and the sperm swims from vagina through cervix and uterus. It goes into the fallopian tube or oviduct and fertilizes the egg there, and that's what we are going to cover. The reproductive organs functions continue, so pretty much you know these things, but I'll let you read them. Puberty, so from the time that a person is born until the end of puberty, the puberty itself, it depends. It takes a year, 6 months, or God knows, different people, different time frames. But the end of puberty is then the person can make sperm or egg. Okay, so not at the beginning, not in the middle of it. So the puberty has to end, and then in the United States, usually the age for women is 10, 11, and the male is usually 12, 16, somewhere in that neighborhood. The range is, according to your textbook, the range is high, 12 to 16 for boys and 10 to 14 for girls. Other textbooks might not say the same thing, and I will not ask that from you guys. Okay, mitosis and meiosis. That is something we need to harp on. I would like to, maybe you did not have it in high school or your other classes, but that is something I would like to emphasize, and I will ask a few questions because in the lab we do have microscopic slides, models of mitosis, and I would like to go over that a little bit for you. We human, like the cells of my skin, the cells of my eyes, the cells of my eyebrow, they all have 46 chromosomes. In that sperm, there is only 23 chromosomes. In the egg, there are only 23 chromosomes. So when sperm and egg come together, then they have this 46 chromosomes. Okay, so let's go over that and go over mitosis and meiosis. So mitosis is when you cut your skin and the cells of the skin grows back. That's mitosis. When you have a little kid at home and you're growing taller and taller, or plant at home, they're growing, that's mitosis. All of that is mitosis. The only place meiosis occurs is in the testes and ovaries of the female and male. Here is the life cycle of human. So we human are 2N. It means we have 46 chromosomes. That's what 2N means, 46 chromosomes. Female also 46 chromosomes. But when they make sperm and egg, the sperm and egg, they have 23 chromosomes. So the 23 sperm and 23 egg come together, And that would be, this is, for example, 1N. This is 1N. So when you put these 1Ns together, then it forms a zygote. Right here, they wrote it down, zygote. And then after zygote, undergo mitosis. So fertilization occurs, and then mitosis, 9 months later, a person is born, male or female. Okay, and next chapter, we'll talk about it, what determines to be a male, what determines to be a female, and then we'll talk about it next chapter, but not this chapter. Anyhow, so you know the sperm and egg, they come from the process of meiosis. And when you cut your skin, or when one egg in the fallopian tube of female undergo mitosis and becomes 4 eggs. It becomes 1 cell, zygote becomes 2 cells, 2 cells become 4 cells, 4 cells becomes 8 cells, 8 cells become 16 cells, 16 cells become 32, and so on and so forth. Okay, mitosis and meiosis. Meiosis, cell division for the purpose of reproduction, yes. So whenever we talk about meiosis, we are talking about sexual reproduction. When we talk about mitosis, it's asexual reproduction. Mitosis, asexual, and meiosis, it is sexual reproduction. Okay, so it is reduction of divisions. Reduction, what do you reduce? The number of the chromosomes. Okay, so that's what you're reducing. Chromosomes numbers are reduced to 46 to 23, and then they come together during fertilization. Now, requires 2 successive divisions, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, forms gametes or sex cells, and also introduces genetic variations. That's all of advantages of sexual reproductions. Following sexual reproductions, haploids are, sperm and egg, they are the gametes. We talked about at the beginning of the PowerPoint. Sperm are much smaller than the eggs. Yes, zygote, as I talked about it, when the sperm and egg come together, because they each have 23 chromosomes, and end up zygote has 46 chromosomes, right? Zygote has 46 chromosomes. Each gamete has 23 chromosomes. So make sure you know those things. So then the first thing he's talking about is male reproductive system is short and brief. And then when we get to male reproductive system, that is a little bit longer. So testes, gonads, I already introduced you that term. Testes or gonads, and scrotum is a sac outside that protects the testes, and epididymis, where the sperm matures, and seminiferous tubules, that's where eggs are being made. Vas deferens is where the doctors cut in order to do sterility in male. Here are the organs and functions. Please study them, know them. Urethra is a structure that both it transfers sperm to female, and also urea is released from here as well. Remember that we talked about it. Here is a male reproductive system. There is a prostate here. You do have the model of this in the lab, and I went over some of the parts that definitely you need to know. And prostate is the one that put the big bulk of the volume into the semen. It's not the sperm. Sperm is a very small amount of it. The fluid, I'm talking about the fluid, 2.5 ml, it will come up. If it does, it's not a big deal. I don't remember it, so do not worry about it. That's the volume of the semen. Anyhow, during ejaculation, sperm leave the semen and then produces seminal vesicles and prostate glands. And these are the 3 portions that you should know. 1, 2, 3, that they do contribute to the semen, to the volume of the semen. Okay, and then of course, semen. Was it in the past or no? It's not. It's going to come up. It's a little bit of acidic, slightly above. I'm sorry. basic, pH of 7.5. So semen is basic, and the environment of vagina is acidic. Okay, so that's why you know, the semen, when it enters the vagina, it has to neutralize. It brings it around the pH of 7, so the sperm can easily travel up through vagina and then go to the fallopian tube eventually. Okay, and it contains fructose. The food for sperm is fructose, serves as energy, and then contains prostaglandins. Again, that term is coming up, which causes the uterus to contract and propel the sperm toward the egg. Okay, penis, the male organ sexual intercourse takes place, and glands of penis has the shaft and glands, and foreskin. If you think circumcision, you are removing the, here we go, the term is in front of me. You're removing the foreskin. Okay, penis continued, spongy, erectile, nitric oxide, all of that is good information. Please read it. I'm not gonna get into it. These are the spongy layers and of the penis and so on and so forth. They're showing you what the cross section of a penis and what it is pretty much. These are spongy tissues that they become full of blood. There is no bone. I should say that. A lot of people think there is bone in here. There is no bone in the penis. Dogs have bones, but we do not. Okay, so there is a lot of blood, or they get trapped in there, and then that's why penis becomes enlarged. Okay, veins of bloods. I guess that's pretty much what I was talking about. Erectile dysfunctions, impotency. That term is not being used as much anymore, but your textbook brought it up, so good. Male orgasm, so please read it. I'm not going to go over it too much. Refractory period, it means after ejaculation, no matter how much of stimulus in the environment, the person cannot get erected. And so that's called the refractory period. In different people is a different time frame. You know, usually in older people, it can last all the way to a day or two. In younger people, refractory period, of course, is a little bit shorter. And of course, it depends on a lot of things. Again, I'm not going to get into all of that detail. What does it say? 400 million sperm, 3.5 milliliters. Here we go. I said 2.5, 3.5 milliliters. Sorry about that. 400 million sperm. It's found in the semen, and that is, as far as I know, it's a minimum. So less than that, then Houston, you've got a problem. You've got to see specialists to treat the male. And most of the male infertility is because of the sperm count is lower. And for whatever reason, after Industrial Revolution, the number of the sperm in male is going down and down and down. Again, I guess I'm boring you with a lot of nonsense information that you don't need to know. Sterility, I talked about it. That is when they snip off the vas deferens, and then the male, the sperm is still synthesized. Everything is same. Semen is same. It just does not have the sperm. Seminiferous tubules. Make sure you know that. Okay, I'd like to ask a few questions about seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules, they are like a cord inside of, it's a tube like this, but it is folded back and forth, and in the lab like that, and they are in the testes. So when in the lab, when you look at the slide, they cut it like here, and you're looking at the cross section of the seminiferous tubule. Spermatogenesis, it means formation of the sperm production in the seminiferous tubules occurs, and epididymis is where they are being stored. Right here, that's where they're being stored, and right here, that's where sperm is being made. Okay. Here's a cross section, what you have in the lab. Here are the cells undergo meiosis and they become sperm. So these cells have 2N and the cells here have 1N, one set of chromosomes, and the cells up there, they have 2 sets of chromosomes. And you will see the picture here in a minute. Spermatogenesis, Sertoli cells, it would be interesting, you should notice they support and nourish the cell, the sperm. So they're important and here they are, they're showing you 2N cells undergo meiosis, meiosis 1, meiosis 2, and finally the sperm, which has 1N. Here they are 2N. Spermatogenesis, again, the sperm has 3 pieces, the head, the neck, and the tail. So the neck is full of mitochondria. Okay, you studied that at the beginning of semester. A mitochondria is like, it produces ATP for the sperm, so the sperm can swim, and it gives all of that energy to flagellum right here. This diagram is a little bit confusing. You might think that this is the acrosomal sac. Is that right? Yeah, he has acrosomal sac, but acrosomal sac, if you would, this is the head of sperm, which is full of the DNA, 23 chromosomes are in here. Acrosomal sac is something like that. It covers it just like this, okay? So, and then, but it covers the whole entire head, and then it's full of enzymes to dissolve the surrounding of the egg and penetrate into the egg, okay? So out of, what did I say, 4 million sperm that is made, only about 100 of them makes it to the egg, and only 1 of them enters the egg. In case of normal, not twins, I'm not talking about twins or any other circumstances, I'm talking about normal cases. Let's move on. I haven't talked about female yet. Interstitial cells, they produce the male sex hormone androgens, and of course, the most important of those androgens is testosterone, and they lie between seminiferous tubules. What I did do for you guys right here, so what happens between the seminiferous tubules right here are those Sertoli cells. Hormonal regulations, so GnRH, it comes, gonadotropin releasing hormones come from hypothalamus. It goes to the anterior pituitary gland and causes a release of FSH and LH. And those are follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. And each, you studied the functions before, and here they are. They're going over the functions one more time. Testosterone, of course, the main sex hormone in males. And of course, it also, testosterone is responsible for secondary male characteristics. So that is facial growth, the boys and all of those goodies, muscularity, become muscular, so on and so forth. Broad shoulders, all of those characteristics of the second characteristics. Male secondary sexual characteristics continued, hair growth, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's get to female. I'm spending too much time on male. Okay, the ovaries, there are 2 of them, just like testes, there are 2 of them. 1 testes would not be sufficient. The person would have problem as far as making enough sperm, but females with 1 ovary still can make egg once a month, and they still can become pregnant. So anyhow, so there are 2 ovaries, and the egg or ova. Ovum is singular, ova is plural, eggs is plural, and 2 hormones that comes from ovary is estrogen and progesterone. And the fallopian tube or uterine tube or oviduct, 3 names for the same thing, for the same structure, fallopian tubes, uterine tube. And then fimbriae is, for example, this is the ovary right here. This is the oviduct, fallopian tube. Fimbria is a structure right here that massages, of course, this should be fallopian, same thing. You all know what I'm talking about. So there is no structure attached here, okay? You will see the pictures. So it massages the ovary like that to release the egg, okay, for ovulation to occur. And that's what fimbria is, and you will see a picture of it. Implants, when the egg, fertilized egg, attaches to the uterus, then it's called implantation. Okay, so they call it implant. Uterus walls, thick-walled muscular organs, three layers in the uterus. Pap smear, it means you go and they check your cervix if there is a cancer or not. So they are checking the cervix. Hysterectomy is removal of the uterus, and hysterectomy is removal of the egg. I say egg, my God, ovary and the uterus. Okay, here are the functions. There is nothing I like to dispute. Everything is in there perfectly fine, laid out. And endometrium is the inner layer lining of the uterus, the most inner layer, and functional layers, and so on and so forth. Here is the reproductive tract of the female. So in the lab, you do have the same model, same thing. So here is the ovary. Here is fimbria, as I was talking about it. Here is a fallopian tube, and here is a uterus, right here. And then the neck of this uterus is called cervix, right here, and vagina, right here, and rectum is in the back, and so on and so forth. Okay, the face view are two ovaries, two fallopian tube, uterus, and vagina. Vagina is acidic. Here we go. What I would like to know that vagina is a very acidic environment. Make sure you know that. Vulva, the external genitals, a vulva, it's made up of labia majora, labia minora, and then mons, pubis. There are a few other things, labia majora, labia minora. Labia majora is the one that has hair in it, but labia minora does not have hair. And I don't know what else I need. Clitoris, of course, very important. Clitoris, just like human penis, has a gland part, okay? So it's not a gland, you guys, it's a gland, okay? So that is the tip of the clitoris. Clitoris look like human penis, but of course it's modified, it's very smaller, and it has the same shape, but the tip of it is called glans, and your textbook like to mention that. And urethra, of course, that's the part that urine comes out. In male, sperm comes out from urethra, and urea comes out from urethra also. So, but in female is different. Reproduction takes through the vagina, but urea comes from urethra. Some of these I'd like to mention. But anyhow, labia minora, vulva continued, so small folds, and the glans, clitoris. I talked about all of this. Hymen, those of people who are get crazy about being virgin or virginity. So there is a tissue called hymen, and that tissue does not exist in all women, okay? So, but before the first penetration, of course, when the first penetration for the first time occurs, it breaks the hymen. There should be some bleeding, some, not a whole lot. Some people do not even bleed. It's all depends on the person, and so on and so forth. So that talks about, your textbook talks about that a little bit. Orgasm in female, I'll let you read it on your own. So, and it has 3 or 4 ovarian cycles. Okay, now we're talking about the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle. We'll talk about that in a minute. Oocyst, immature eggs contained within the follicle. There are theories you were born with 2 million, 1 million. Do not worry about those terms. But what happens, the most important thing, you release about 400 or 450, depends what textbook you open up, throughout your lifetime. Okay, so from the age This is simple calculations. You can do it on your own. From age 14, 13, whenever the first ovulation occurs, the first period occurs until the age 45, 55, whatever it is, you stop anywhere in that neighborhood, you release that many eggs, between 400 to 450. You can do the math and you will come up with that number. Primary ovarian cycle, we'll talk about this. Here we go, the ovarian cycle. So you do have, what it says, you do have about 1 million, your textbook says 2 million. You have about 2 million of these at the time you were born. By the time you reach puberty, they say there is 500,000 left in here. So over a period of time, they are destroyed, okay? Now, at puberty, these primary follicles, they become mature, like these, Graafian follicle, I like to call them. You have them in the lab. And then when the egg is released into the fallopian tube, then this empty Graafian follicle become corpus luteum. These are the corpus luteum, okay? So how many times during your lifetime you release this? About 400, your textbook says, I say 450, okay? So that's what this is, the ovarian cycle is. And after you release, after you release the egg, then one of these primary follicles get to start getting to work to become this. If pregnancy occur, no, they do not, they stop right here. So this one starts releasing progesterone until the umbilical cord is formed, the placenta is formed. Okay, oocyst, primary oocyst, secondary oocyst, oogenesis, it means formation, production of the oocyst, and polar bodies. Okay, do you remember the meiosis? You start out with one cell and you end up in meiosis with 4 cells. So only one of these cells become the egg. The other 3 become polar bodies. They call them polar bodies. In sperm, in case of sperm, all 4 of them become sperm, and all 4 of them are viable. I mean, they can fertilize an egg. The story is different in sperm than the egg. The egg, 3 of them are not viable. They cannot carry on life, okay? So they call them polar bodies. And let's move on. Okay, here they are. So what is happening there, this diagram is saying primary oocyst, first polar body, when sperm enters the egg. So remember, so this is the original egg, primary follicle, undergo meiosis 1, and then becomes 2 cells. One of those cells right here, and as soon as they find the sperm enters, then the other polar body is made. So then you have, right here you have 2, and you have another polar body. So there are 3 of them. 1, 2, 3 of them are polar body, and one of them actually become the egg, okay? Oh, they're showing you the zygote, the second polar body is made here. 1, sorry, 2, 3. Okay, let's forget that. Okay, oogenesis continued. Ovulation is when the egg is released from the Graafian follicle and from the ovary. Okay, corpus luteum, as I talked about it, when the empty Graafian follicle becomes corpus luteum and starts releasing progesterone to continue on the pregnancy. Okay, phases of the ovarian cycle. Here are the hormones that talks about what does FSH and LH will do. Please study them. I think I talked about them in the last chapter. Follicular phase. So I like to talk about these things with a, here we go, very good, with a graph. So here is the ovarian cycle. It shows you the level of the hormones FSH and LH. What happens right around the ovulation, which is about the mid-time, 11 to 15, 11 to 14, 11 to 13, somewhere in that neighborhood, okay, when the ovulation is occurring, okay? So what happens, you have a surge of both FSH and LH, right? A little bit prior to the ovulation, okay? And then when ovulation occurs, they go back to the normal level. What happens during uterine cycle, okay? You have the same thing, a little bit of a surge of estrogen right during the same time, during the ovulation, a little bit prior to ovulation. And then what happens, the level of progesterone increases during the luteal phase, or they call it secondary phase of then you have a surge of progesterone. Progesterone level does not increase during ovulation. And why is that? Because of the corpus luteum. If pregnancy does not occur, corpus luteum will shrink. And then, of course, the level of progesterone goes back to normal, during the cycle or the previous cycles. So anyhow, your textbook like to call this developing follicle, mature follicle, or follicular phase. Sorry about that. That's what I meant. Follicular phase, ovulation phase, and luteal phase. Because of corpus luteum, they like to call it luteal phase. 3 phases. Some textbooks, they break it down to 4 phases and so on and so forth. So on the bottom, right here, you have the menstruation phase, and then you have proliferative phase. During the menstruation, it's sloughing off, the endometrium is occurring, these tissues are being sloughed off, okay? And then proliferative phase is when all of these tissues are going back. And then, of course, after when the menstruation stops, right here, after 4 or 5 days. And then the secondary phase, they become thicker and thicker. The layers of the uterus becomes thicker and thicker. Okay, so phases of the ovarian cycle, luteal cycle, I talked about that a little bit. Let's move on. Estrogen and progesterone, prolactin is involved for production of the milk. If the pregnancy occurs, oxytocin, again, we talked about all of those, you guys. I'm gonna zip-zap through them with your permission, of course. Menopause, again, between the ages of 45 to 55, that's when menstruation stops. That's where ovulation stops, okay? I've heard stories, women after age 55 became pregnant and so on and so forth. And yeah, there are always exceptions to every rule, and I guess this is one. A uterine cycle, cyclical series of events caused by estrogen and progesterone. Okay, so menstruation, I talked about that, proliferative phases. So do not worry about the dates, you guys. Well, it is good to know for just your own, but for exam purposes, I know you guys study for exam purposes, but I might ask you the very beginning of the, it's a cycle, where's beginning, where's end, there's none. But based on our diagram, we put it in a linear format, and the beginning was the menstruation phase. So anyhow, that's 1 to 5 days. Excellent tables, you should really study them and know them. Some people use calendar method for contraceptives. It's up to you, it's very risky. If you know your body, you can use that. I've heard some women, in human sexuality, they had a good luck with it, and some they didn't. Okay, but anyhow, zygote, fertilization and pregnancy, zygote becomes an embryo, and so on and so forth. Implantation, I talked about that. Miscarriage, these are placenta, sustains the developing of embryo. We talked about that. And then when a person is pregnant, early on, I would say 2-3 weeks into pregnancy, you can detect that hormone in your urine. Okay, it depends where you buy the kit from. If you buy it from dollar store, sometimes dollar store has good stuff. If you buy it from dollar store, maybe you don't get the results you wanted it. but getting it from a good reputable store, a good brand, early on, you can detect that if you're pregnant or not. And that's the hormone they look for in those kids. Okay, anyhow, so this is the effect of pregnancy on the corpus luteum and the endometrium. So if the pregnancy occurs, the corpus luteum do not vanish. It keeps making progesterone. It keeps making progesterone. Here it is, they're showing you pregnancy, then progesterone level is increased. Of course, estrogen level elevates a little bit too. But placenta eventually takes place of corpus luteum. So corpus luteum eventually will vanish, but placenta comes in and releases progesterone. Birth control pills, study them, please know them. There are different methods. Again, your textbook, as I said, trying to say a lot. And what happens, the new active pill supply, they increase, they give you pills that have high levels of progesterone and estrogens. And as you know, that does not allow the implementation of the zygote takes place. So that's what the idea of the pills are. Control of reproduction, there are different methods. Contraceptives, birth control pills, intrauterine tube, IUD. It's a device that they place it in vagina and then it remains there. A different manufacturer, different time frames. Diaphragm is another one. But IUD, for your quiz purposes, IUD is not a barrier method. Okay, the barrier methods are diaphragm and condom, female condom, male condom. Those are the only three barrier methods. The rest of methods, like taking a pill, is not a barrier method, like a barrier. Okay, they're not. Here they are. They're showing you IUD here, and then this is the female condom, and this is the male condom. So study them, know them. Vaccines developing immunizing for against HCG. Again, these are interesting information, but I don't know how much of it. Vasectomy, yes, tubal ligations, as I talked about it before, it's a vas deferens that they snip off. And then you see it in the next picture, right here is a vas deferens, they snip it off, and they snip it off. So the sperm from here cannot go all the way into the semen, okay? In case of female, the egg are still being made, the sperm is still being made, and what happens if the sperm are not being transferred, the cells, there are cells in the testes can eat them up. Same as the egg. The eggs are released, but they don't go anywhere. They're stopped right here, and then there are cells in the fallopian tube that eat them up, destroy them. Okay, just as simple as that. Are these 100% efficient? No. Still, people have done these procedures and they became pregnant. 1% or 2%, something like that, around 15% of the couples are infertile. No, but anyhow, that's going to infertility. The rates are low. Is it reversible? Yes, it's reversible, but your mercy of the surgeon and they take your money and possibly it's not as effective. They try to reverse it, but it's not as effective. But anyway. Causes infertility, low sperm count in male, smoking, all of these are good things. Endometriosis in female, yes, that's a cause, big cause. Artificial insemination, assisted reproductive AID, sperms are placed in vagina by physician. So that is intrauterine insemination. That's a different methods. There are different methods of AID. That was one of them. In vitro fertilization, IVF. So they do it in glassware, and when the fertilized egg becomes a blastula or blastocyst in case of human, then they go ahead and put it in the uterus, and it will continue life. Intracytoplasmic sperm injection into the egg. These are great methods. GIFT, I call it GIFT, but GITF is same as IVF, but they do it inside of the uterus. Surrogate mothers, they get paid, and then they carry on the pregnancy and so on. Sexually transmitted diseases, guys, quickly let me go over them. Most of them you know, HIV, and we talked about them in last chapter a lot. And genital warts, there's a vaccine for it now, human papilloma virus, that's the name of it, for genital warts. So if you want to get it, the females get it, they have to go in 2 sections, 2 in time intervals. Genital herpes, yes, again, here are herpes simplex virus 2 and herpes, genital herpes continued, herpes again, my God. Hepatitis, there are, what, 4 or 5 of them now? 6, wow, and G all the way to G, okay, that's fine. Hepatitis A, B, C, and hepatitis B is the one that is spread through sexual contact, but hepatitis A usually acquired from sewage contaminated drinking water, but also can be sexually transmitted as well. And hepatitis C, most cases of post-transfusion of blood, and hepatitis G and D is sexually transmitted as well. So, the bacteria curable with antibiotics, chlamydia, yes, but if it passes certain stages, they are not curable anymore. The damage is done. So, gonorrhea, same thing. It's a bacterial infection. Syphilis is a bacterial infection. Syphilis, as you know, it can cause death if it is not treated early on. Here is a bacteria, it's a spirillum, the wiggly bacteria of the syphilis. Vaginitis, again, a bacterial vaginitis can be caused inflammation of vagina, and there are yeast infections, trichomoniasis, it's a protozoan. Yeast is a fungi, as you all know, and so yeast is a fungi, and then trichomonas is a protozoan, and you do have slide of trichomoniasis in the lab. And I think that's it. I hope you guys study these things and know them for your exam.